Hello, my name is Mike Shagg, and I am a private sector attorney, and I'm also a career military officer. This is part of our series on family issues as they relate to the military. And today we're going to talk a little bit about debt and finance and how that affects the military family in particular. A lot of the ideas we'll talk about are going to be good for general application, but we'll sprinkle in some things that are particular to the military family as we discuss the various subject matters. First thing I want to do is really just establish for you, in case anybody didn't realize what it is. Debt, what we're talking about when we talk about debt is owing money to another person. The person owing the money is known as a debtor, and the person that the money is owed to is owed as a creditor, is known as a creditor. We're going to be using those terms probably throughout the presentation, so it's important that you understand those definitions. I suppose most of you probably have a general idea of what those are, but we should be clear about them. Debt, of course, is not necessarily always a good thing. It's almost impossible, really, to go through life these days without incurring some kind of a debt. Most of us have a home mortgage, for example, that we eventually hope to pay off. But debt is really used for a lot of different transactions in life as we go through it. We use debt to finance our cars. We're using debt when we put down the charge card at a grocery store or at a convenience store or at any other sort of vendor. It may or may not be a good idea to use credit in any given situation, but this is a presentation that will hopefully help you negotiate through some of the difficulties in deciding when it's a good idea to use credit, and perhaps when you get in a little bit over your head in using it, some of the measures that you can do to get yourself back under control in that regard. Now, like most of you, I've gone through life dealing with a lot of issues of family and personal finance, so I look at this not only as a lawyer, but also as a citizen of society that has to get through life, pay for a mortgage, pay for my kids to go to college, deal with the various things that we deal in life. I like to take vacations just like you do. We have to buy things in life, and one of the things that I have found that has helped in understanding or guiding the way a little bit is perhaps recognizing that no one really owes me anything in life. We may accomplish various things. We may do certain things that are aimed at gaining some of the fruits of life. Perhaps we get some education. But it's probably important to understand that none of that results in an absolute right to have any given thing. And I find that thinking about that a little bit, meditating on that principle that really no one owes me anything, helps me make good decisions when I'm thinking about whether or not to go into debt on a particular transaction. I also think about another thing, and that is that it is my own responsibility to take care of my personal finances so that others don't have to. Of course, there are situations in life where people can't help their situation. There are various aspects of medical challenges and different things that people have that maybe make them dependent on others. But a lot of us are perfectly capable of gaining employment and paying our way through life. And I consider it my responsibility not only to myself and to my family, but also to others to take care of those needs. And I would have to say that if you have difficulty with understanding or accepting those two basic principles, that no one owes me anything and that I have the responsibility for managing my own finances for the benefit of myself and for others, then the rest of what I'm going to talk about is probably not going to be terribly useful to you either. But if it is, if you do accept those ideas, then we have a good program for you here today to talk about some things that may help you get through some things in life. Another thing that I think about a lot in terms of debt constantly is setting priorities for it. There are good ways to go into debt and there are bad ways to go into debt. The premier example I think that most people think about in terms of debt is that most American families simply could not afford to buy a home with cash, and if they saved it up, they'd probably be buying it at the end of their life. So, you know, getting into a home mortgage has certain advantages to it. There's tax deductibility for the mortgage interest under certain circumstances. Everybody's got a home to live in. They've got to have a home to live in. So there are all kinds of good reasons to consider taking on a mortgage that is within your personal means. There are other things, though, that are more debatable. You know, for example, going on a vacation probably isn't a good idea in terms of taking on debt. It may be a good idea, instead of going on that Bahamas vacation, to stay near home or go somewhere that is more affordable if you can't afford it and if you have to go into debt to do it. There are special occasions, and I suppose it's debatable, but a lot of times people will go into a certain amount of short-term debt to pay off some expenses they have for certain life events, such as a wedding. Maybe that is not a bad expenditure of debt. But there are others that seem pretty clear to me that are just bad ideas in any venue. You know, when you're throwing down a credit card for simple expenditures, everyday expenditures, and then paying interest on that over time, you're really making probably a big financial mistake. A lot of people like to go to Starbucks to get coffee, and that's fine if you can afford the $4 or $5 coffee. But if you're putting it down on a credit card and you're paying months and months of interest on your cup of coffee that you have every day, you're really paying for that cup of coffee over and over again. So you really think you need to set priorities. And if you set priorities with your debt, and as you manage your finances more generally, you will be better situated to take care of the things that are really important in life. Life delivers us all some hurdles and some difficulties in one way or another, but on the averages, if you manage your finances well and prioritize the debts that you take on, you will likely be in a situation where you can comfortably take on those expenses in life that are truly important to us. As I've said, with respect to paying off the home mortgage, or maybe being able to pay for that wedding that your child is having, or perhaps contributing to or paying entirely for your child's education. Things that are really important. The cup of coffee, probably not so important.